stage just wait for my cue to start speaking.
Yeah, I saw you got some fire back on Twitter.
On either side.
Do you want me
For symmetry, I'll stand on the other side.
For 15 years.
Okay. You deal with it.
Yeah, squeeze in maybe.
All right. Does that look fun? Good, Cass? Okay.
Ready to roll. Good morning. My name is Matthew Wojciechowski, and I am the Vice President of Campaign Life Coalition, the organizer of the 22nd National March for Life, which takes place this Thursday on May the 9th. On May 14th, 1969, the Liberal government, at the time led by Prime Minister Pierre Elliott Trudeau, decriminalized abortion, opening the floodgates to abortion on demand in Canada. In these last 50 years, more than 4 million children have been killed in the womb. Today, 1 baby is aborted for every 4 born. And by the end of day today, almost 300 lives will be aborted across this country. This Thursday, Canadians from across the country will gather on Parliament Hill and march through the streets of downtown Ottawa in support of the right to life for all human beings from the time of conception until natural death. Thousands of Canadians in Ottawa and across Canada will be marching because they refuse to let another 50 years of this human rights injustice pass by. Many will be marching because they disagree with the current government's obsession with further expanding abortion in Canada and exporting it throughout the world with Canadian tax dollars. Some in Parliament from both sides of the aisle, including our Prime Minister, claim that abortion is a human right. This is a lie. The killing of a child in the womb is not a right, and no one has the right to kill another human being. We will be marching because we want abortion to become unthinkable in this country. We want women who face unplanned pregnancies to know that abortion is not a solution. We want those who work in the abortion industry to leave their jobs and for doctors to stop committing abortions and prescribing deadly chemical pills. Today, I am pleased to have with us someone who worked in the abortion industry for almost a decade, someone who advocated for the so-called right to choose, becoming Planned Parenthood's Employee of the Year. But all that changed after witnessing the abortion of a 13-week-old fetus during an ultrasound-guided abortion in the facility that she managed. What she saw that day changed everything. In this March for Life, we want all Canadians, regardless of where they stand on this issue, to know her story. I now invite our special guest, Abby Johnson.
Hello, thank you for having me. My name is Abby Johnson. I live in Texas in the United States. I ran a Planned Parenthood abortion facility. I was there for 8 years and left in October of 2009 after several things. One, being told by Planned Parenthood that we needed to double our abortion quota, a certain number of abortions that we had to sell to women coming into our facilities, which really went against the idea that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare, which is the talking point that we used for many years. But ultimately left after witnessing a live ultrasound-guided abortion procedure of a 13-week-old unborn fetus and seeing that child fight and struggle for his life against the abortion instruments. And I knew then that there was humanity in the womb, there was life in the womb, and I knew that even though, as at that time, I considered myself a very proud feminist, I realized that even though I was saying that I was championing women's justice and reproductive justice, that what I had witnessed in the womb was a grave injustice. And I knew that I had to leave the abortion industry. And so that's what I did. And I now go around the world speaking about abortion, exposing the abortion industry, sharing my story, and helping to get other abortion clinic workers out of their jobs and into life-affirming work. And we help them speak out about the atrocities and the tragedies of abortion. And I'm very honored to be here in Canada to share my story. But I'm also very troubled by what I see here in Canada regarding abortion laws, the lack of regulation, the lack of laws here in your country. I'm very concerned about the injustice that I see taking place here, similar to the injustice that we see in the United States. I'm also deeply concerned about the fear that many people have here in Canada. The fear that pro-lifers have not being able to speak publicly, being concerned about punishment or repercussions. That is not democracy. It is oppression. And so I'm here to really implore Canadians to use your voice, to be not afraid, to speak boldly on this issue because lives are depending on our voices. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Unplanned brings us an eye-opening look inside the abortion industry from a woman who was once its most passionate advocate. No matter which side of the fence you're on, no one will leave this film unmoved. With that said, I would now like to invite Lisa Wheeler, who is one of the co-producers of the film Unplanned, to share some news about the film coming to Canada.
My name is Lisa Wheeler, and I am a co-producer on the film Unplanned. As you might know from news reports, we released Unplanned domestically in the United States several weeks ago. We have surpassed $17 million at the box office. Typically, box office for a film of this kind would include all of North America, which would include Canada. But at this point, and as of today, we have effectively been blocked from distributing the film here in Canada. It is part of a process to distribute a film in Canada. You have to be with a legitimate distributor, and there have been no distributors that are willing to distribute the film in the theatrical chains here in Canada. We've even gone direct to both Cinemark and Landmark theaters because of the demand of Canadian citizens and pro-lifers who have come to us to ask us to bring the film to Canada. And the chains have essentially told us that because of the content of Unplanned, they will not allow the film to be seen in their theaters through the distribution process here in Canada. So effectively what that means is that the only way Canadians will be able to see Unplanned is in two ways. Either organizations and ministries will have to rent buses and bus people into the United States so that they can see Unplanned, or independent individuals, organizations, and ministries will have to license the film through us directly and rent out venues, parish halls, theaters that are willing, independent theaters that are willing to show the film and be able to see Unplanned in that way. We're not defeated by this. We know that Canadians want Unplanned here, and so we will be working with those organizations and ministries and individuals to bring Unplanned to Canada. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And I also like to thank and acknowledge the members of Parliament who showed up here today for this press conference and for their support for the National March for Life and their support for the film Unplanned. And now, if there are any questions from the audience, we can take those now.
No questions?
I'd like to ask Abby Johnson some questions. The movie Unplanned is your story. How do you feel about the fact that it's been effectively censored in Canada?
I would like to say that I'm surprised, but I'm not. I have to wonder what these distributors are afraid of. If abortion is normal, if abortion is truly acceptable in Canada, then why not show the public? Why not show Canadian citizens exactly what it is? If abortion is not killing an unborn human person, then why not put it out there publicly for people to make a decision? I was thinking about this morning. I know several Canadian women who have come to the United States for late-term abortion procedures, and those are paid for with Canadian tax dollars. And it's just interesting to me that supposedly in Canada, abortion is an issue that has been settled. That's what many people would say. Yet you can't find in Canada a late-term abortion provider. So you have to ship your women to the United States in order to have late-term abortions performed. And I think that just goes to show that the issue isn't settled here in Canada. If it was, abortion would be more readily accessible, even in the late term, even in the last trimester. It's not settled, and I was looking up the history of slavery here in Canada, which is apparently something that's not talked about very often. Slavery was not illegal here until 1833. And I have to wonder what would have happened if people in Parliament and the government would have said, well, we're just not going to concern ourselves with slavery because it's an issue that is settled. Anytime there is injustice anywhere, there is injustice everywhere. And it concerns all of us. It should concern all of us. And we should never look at any form of injustice and call it settled. We should continue to fight and to work at all cost to solve that injustice and to bring justice to the most vulnerable in our society.
Can I talk to Lisa Wheeler? In the United States, you were able to get at least some distribution, but it hasn't exactly been an easy road even to get it in the United States. Could you talk a little bit about what the film has encountered south of the border, and also about the timing of the release of this movie because of these draconian abortion laws that some states have been introducing, which are kind of like Canadian situation?
Sure. So we did not have an issue with releasing unplanned from a distribution standpoint in the United States. There are a number of distributors who appreciate the value of films that have a message of hope and a message of love and mercy. And so PureFlix was our distributor in the United States, and they were very successful in getting the film into almost 2,000 screens within the U.S. Over the run that we had. Our opposition to the film really came from those that are opposed to abortion and who were not supportive of our efforts to promote and publicize the film in a country where freedom to speak is prevalent. So our press, even though we have the freedom of the press in the U.S., our press is very progressive and liberal leaning, and they are the ones that censored much of the communication on the film. And so that's where we faced our greatest challenge. Although the people of the United States didn't let that happen, and there were many media outlets that were effective in spreading the truth about the film. And then your other question, which was, forget the second part of your question, which was...
I remember it too.
The timing?
Oh, about the timing
Yeah.
of the film. Yes. So, yes, we like to say that the timing of this film is really dictated by the Lord. It's all providence. The idea of the film came to Carrie Solomon and Chuck Konzelman, the writer, the directors, many years ago, shortly after Abby's book became a bestseller in the U.S. And they prayed on it. They felt like the Lord was directing them in that way initially. But then they also heard from the Lord that the timing was not yet, not for that time. And it was only shortly before our current administration and our current president was elected that they heard in prayer that the Lord say now for the film. And we never would have known that the laws that are occurring right now in the United States, in New York and several other states across the country, that would bring abortion legal up until the day that a baby is born, and in some cases beyond that, would occur at the same time that our film was coming out. And so we often say that, you know, the film is out right now for such a time as this, and it has really been an impetus in many legal discussions in the United States. We've had a hand in several heartbeat bills around our country in showing the abortion scene that is in the beginning of the film, in helping those that are voting on behalf of that legislation to make a decision in favor or against. And in almost all of those cases, watching Unplanned has been a factor in helping those bills to pass. So we feel that the film really does open the eyes of those who watch it, so that they can see really what this kind of legislation could potentially do to our country in the United States.
Nadine, would you-
You can go for another question if you want. Yeah.
I would like to ask Matt, how are things going for the March for Life this year? Are you encountering any additional obstacles or any kind of hassle in getting the message out this year?
I mean, in regards to organizing the National March for Life, it's pretty much status quo. There are always obstacles that we face in organizing the largest pro-life demonstration in Canada. At the same time, this year in particular, we still have not fully received, as of yesterday, so things may have changed. We haven't received the exact same permits and for some of the equipment and speakers, and as of yesterday, we weren't allowed to use the steps of Parliament Hill, due to some sort of rule in the book. But at the same time, we've been using those steps for the past 20 years, and we've never had any problems with that. So I hope this is just something that's red tape is kind of stopping us from progressing. I really hope this isn't a form of discrimination against the March for Life. I'm not going to jump to that conclusion yet, but it's very concerning considering the March for Life is literally tomorrow. So we hope, and we will be in talks with the Committee on the Use of Parliament Hill today to guarantee that thousands of Canadians have the right to express their free speech and their freedom to assemble on the steps of Parliament Hill. But in addition to that, there's really been nothing else. We are extremely excited for the March for Life. Again, we have thousands of people showing up. We have an amazing lineup of speakers, including Abby, who will be speaking on the Hill tomorrow. And we really encourage every one of you to come out to the rally, which starts at 12:30, and join us for the march from 1:30 onwards, and just see the real face of the pro-life movement here in Canada. Thank you very much.
I'll let you take your picture. And afterwards, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much.